I told my daughter to defend herself. I honestly believed I was giving her the best advice a parent could give. If I had known what those words would set in motion, I would have chosen them far more carefully. My daughter was 12 years old at the time. She wasn't the kind of child who looked for trouble. She was quiet, respectful, and the type of girl who apologized even when something wasn't her fault. Ever since she was little, I had always worried that people would take advantage of her kindness. She had such a gentle heart that she would rather suffer in silence than make someone else uncomfortable. Everything changed when she started middle school. At first, she told me she liked her new teachers. She even talked excitedly about making new friends. For a few weeks, everything seemed normal. Then, little things started happening. She stopped asking me to drop her off in front of the school. Instead, she wanted me to let her out a block away. When I asked why, she shrugged and said everyone else walked the rest of the way. I didn't think much of it. A few days later, she stopped eating breakfast. Then she started pretending to be sick almost every Monday morning. She complained of headaches, stomach pains, dizziness, anything that would keep her home. Every time I took her to the doctor, they told me the same thing. There doesn't seem to be anything physically wrong. Looking back now, I wish I had understood what they were really saying. One evening, I found her sitting on the floor of her bedroom with her knees pulled up to her chest. She didn't even notice me standing in the doorway. I asked her what was wrong. She smiled. That smile terrified me. It wasn't real. Parents know the difference. After several minutes of convincing her that she could tell me anything, she finally admitted that a group of girls had been bullying her for months. They mocked the way she dressed. They laughed at her hair. They stole her lunch. They hid her backpack. Sometimes they would surround her during recess just to insult her while everyone else watched. The worst part wasn't even what they said. It was that nobody stopped them. She told teachers. Nothing changed. She told the school counselor. Nothing changed. I called the school myself. They promised they would look into it. Weeks passed. Nothing changed. Every afternoon, my daughter came home looking smaller than she had when she left that morning. It was as if those girls were stealing little pieces of her confidence every single day. I couldn't bear watching it anymore. One Saturday morning, we were sitting together in the kitchen. She asked me a question I'll never forget. "Dad, what's wrong with me?" My heart shattered. No child should ever have to ask that. I held her hand and told her there was absolutely nothing wrong with her. Then she asked another question. "What do I do if they won't stop?" I paused. I thought about everything I'd already tried. Talking hadn't worked. Reporting it hadn't worked. The school hadn't protected her. The teachers hadn't protected her. Nobody had protected my little girl. That's when I looked her in the eyes and said the words that still echo in my mind. If someone puts their hands on you again, defend yourself. I wasn't telling her to start fights. I wasn't telling her to hurt anyone. I simply wanted her to know she didn't have to stand there and let someone abuse her. At that moment, I thought I was empowering her. Instead, I was unknowingly placing both of us on a path that would change our lives forever. The following Monday, I went to work like any other day. Around 10:30 in the morning, my phone rang. The caller ID showed the school's number. I assumed someone wanted to discuss another bullying incident. I answered calmly. Within seconds, my stomach dropped. The principal's voice sounded unusually serious. He asked me to come to the school immediately. He wouldn't explain why. The 20-minute drive felt like 2 hours. Every horrible possibility raced through my mind. Was she hurt? Had she been suspended? Had someone attacked her? Nothing prepared me for what I saw when I arrived. The front office was unusually quiet. The receptionist, who normally greeted every parent with a smile, couldn't even look me in the eye. She simply pointed toward the principal's office. The moment I stepped inside, I saw my daughter sitting in a chair against the wall. She was crying. One side of her face was red. Her shirt had a small tear near the shoulder, and her hands were trembling so badly that she couldn't even hold the tissue someone had given her. The first thing I did was kneel in front of her. I asked if she was hurt. She shook her head. Then she whispered 4 words that made my heart sink. They wouldn't stop, Dad. I looked at the principal, then at the vice principal, then at the school resource officers standing in the corner. I knew immediately that whatever had happened was much bigger than another bullying complaint. The principal took a deep breath before explaining. According to several students, the same group of girls had cornered my daughter near the cafeteria before lunch. They surrounded her just like they had done so many times before. Only this time, they didn't stop at insults. One of them grabbed my daughter's backpack and threw it across the hallway. Another shoved her from behind. When she tried to walk away, someone pulled her hair hard enough to make her stumble. She asked them to leave her alone. They laughed. One girl slapped the books out of her hands. As she bent down to pick them up, another student kicked them farther down the hallway. More students gathered. Phones came out. People started recording. Nobody stepped in. My daughter told me later that she looked around, hoping one adult would notice. She couldn't see a single teacher. Then one of the girls shoved her again. This time, she hit the lockers. That's when she remembered what I had told her. If someone puts their hands on you again, defend yourself. She stood up. She pushed the girl away. The girl lost her balance and fell backward. Unfortunately, she hit the side of her head against a metal bench before landing on the floor. The hallway went silent. For a few terrifying seconds, nobody moved. Then someone screamed for a teacher. An ambulance was called. The girl was taken to the hospital. Thankfully, she regained consciousness before the ambulance even left the school, but she still suffered a concussion and needed several stitches above her ear. The moment I heard that, I felt my knees go weak. Not because my daughter had defended herself, because I knew exactly how this was going to look. Every month of bullying, every ignored complaint, every meeting, every email, none of that would matter to people who only saw a short video online. And that's exactly what happened. By the time we got home, someone had already uploaded the fight. The video didn't show the months of harassment. It didn't show the girls stealing her backpack. It didn't show them pulling her hair. It didn't show them shoving her into the lockers. The recording started at the exact moment my daughter pushed the other girl. To millions of strangers, she looked like the aggressor. Within hours, local community pages were sharing the clip. People who had never met my child were calling her violent. Some demanded she be expelled. Others accused me of raising an out-of-control daughter. I sat on the couch that night, scrolling through hundreds of comments from complete strangers, judging a 12-year-old girl they knew nothing about. My daughter walked into the living room just as I was reading them. She quietly asked me one question. Am I the bad guy now? I didn't know how to answer, because I knew she wasn't. But I also knew the internet had already decided she was. The next morning, reporters were outside the school. Parents were talking in parking lots. Children whispered whenever my daughter walked by. The school district announced an investigation. Both girls were suspended while they reviewed security footage and interviewed witnesses. That suspension hurt my daughter more than the bullying ever had. She kept asking why she was being punished for trying to protect herself. Every time she asked, I blamed myself. Those words I had spoken so confidently, "Defend yourself," kept replaying in my head. I wondered if I had failed her. For the first time since she was born, I truly felt powerless. But then something happened that none of us expected. A teacher I had never met contacted the school district. She had been reviewing security footage from another hallway because of an unrelated incident. Completely by accident, one of the cameras had captured the minutes before the fight. Not perfectly, not with audio, but clearly enough to show exactly what happened before the cell phone video began. It showed the girls surrounding my daughter. It showed them taking her backpack. It showed one of them shoving her. It showed another pulling her hair. It showed my daughter trying to walk away. And it showed her being pushed into the lockers before she finally defended herself. For the first time since this nightmare began, the whole story was finally about to come out. I wish I could tell you that the moment everyone saw that security footage, everything was fixed. It wasn't. The truth has a strange way of moving much slower than a lie. The cell phone video had already spread to millions of people. But the security footage was only seen by the people investigating the incident. Even after they confirmed that my daughter had acted in self-defense, the damage to her reputation had already been done. Rumors don't disappear just because the facts finally catch up. A week later, I was called back to the school. This meeting felt different. Instead of trying to explain what had happened, the principal spent most of the meeting apologizing. The investigation had uncovered something I never expected. My daughter hadn't been the only victim. Several students had reported being bullied by the same group of girls over the past 2 years. Some complaints had been documented. Others had been brushed aside as normal disagreements between children. One teacher admitted she had witnessed the girls teasing younger students more than once, but believed they would eventually grow out of it. Another staff member confessed that the school had been hesitant to issue serious discipline because the girls had influential parents who frequently challenged school decisions. As I listened, I felt my hands clench into fists beneath the table. My daughter had begged for help. I had begged for help. Nothing meaningful had been done until someone ended up in an ambulance. That realization made me sick. The superintendent eventually informed us that the school would be changing its bullying procedures. Teachers would receive additional training. Students would have new ways to report harassment anonymously. Hallway supervision would be increased. Those changes sounded encouraging, but all I could think was, why did my daughter have to suffer before anyone decided those changes were necessary? She couldn't get those months back. She couldn't erase the fear she carried every morning before school. She couldn't forget sitting alone at lunch because she was terrified of becoming the next joke. No policy could undo that. When my daughter's suspension was officially removed from her record, I expected her to feel relieved. Instead, she surprised me. She looked at the letter for a few seconds, folded it neatly, and placed it inside a drawer. Then she walked back to her room without saying a word. I realized something that day. Adults think justice is enough. Children just want to feel safe again. Over the next several months, I watched my daughter slowly rebuild herself. It wasn't dramatic. There wasn't one magical day when everything suddenly became okay. Healing happened in tiny moments. We also started seeing a counselor together. At first, I thought the sessions were mainly for my daughter. I was wrong. One afternoon, the counselor asked me a question I wasn't expecting. "Have you forgiven yourself?" I didn't answer, because I hadn't. For months, I kept replaying that conversation in our kitchen. If someone puts their hands on you again, defend yourself. I wondered whether I should have chosen different words. Maybe I should have told her to run. Maybe I should have pulled her out of that school sooner. Maybe I should have fought harder. Parents torture themselves with maybe. It's a habit that's almost impossible to break. The counselor reminded me of something simple. You didn't teach your daughter violence. You taught her that she mattered. Those words stayed with me. Even today, I still think about them. One evening, nearly a year after everything happened, my daughter and I were sitting on the back porch watching the sunset. She had grown taller. She seemed more confident, not because of what happened, but because of everything she survived afterward. Out of nowhere, she looked at me and smiled. A real smile. The kind I hadn't seen in a very long time. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Dad, thank you for believing me when nobody else did." I felt tears fill my eyes, because she had no idea how much I needed to hear that. Parents spend so much time worrying about saying the perfect thing. The truth is, we rarely do. We make decisions with the information we have at the time. Sometimes we're right. Sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes life places us in situations where every option carries consequences. If I could go back, I don't know whether I'd tell my daughter to defend herself in exactly the same way. But I do know this. I would never tell her to believe that enduring abuse is the price of keeping the peace. No child should ever think their safety matters less than someone else's comfort. The experience changed our family forever. It taught me that bullying isn't harmless. It's not just kids being kids. It's not a phase that should simply be ignored. Every ignored complaint tells a child they're facing the world alone. And sometimes, when adults refuse to act, children feel forced to solve problems that should never have been theirs to solve. My daughter is older now. She's stronger. She's happier. But every August, when stores fill with backpacks and school supplies, I notice something. She becomes unusually quiet, not because she's afraid anymore, because some memories never disappear completely. They simply become easier to carry. As for me, whenever another parent asks for advice about bullying, I don't pretend to have all the answers. I simply tell them what I learned the hard way. Listen the first time your child says something is wrong. Don't dismiss it. Don't assume they'll figure it out. Keep records. Speak up. And if no one listens, keep speaking until someone does. Because I almost lost the bright, fearless little girl my daughter was. Not to violence, but to months of feeling invisible. People still share that short clip online. Some still believe my daughter was the bully. They have no idea what happened before someone pressed the record button. I stopped trying to convince strangers a long time ago. The only person I needed to protect was my daughter. If believing her, standing by her, and refusing to let her suffer in silence makes me the villain in someone else's story, then that's a role I'm willing to live with. Because at the end of the day, she came home to a father who never stopped believing her. And that's something no viral video can ever take away. That is the part of the story people never saw in the viral video. And that's the truth I've wanted to tell ever since.